hey, I really know I need help, but I don't know what I need help with.
If you're expecting all of your life's problems to evaporate because you're hiring a VA, you probably got to look in the mirror first.
So you're hiring 32 people and training them in like a month.
Looking back on it, I kind of question how I ever did it. The hiring of people locally has always been a little bit tricky, but I feel like it's only getting worse right now. I fired 4 people in the course of 2 weeks, and I blame myself first, right?
This selection process and the hunting for VA process is difficult.
On average, for NinjaVA, we have 200 initial applicants for one specific candidate.
Wow.
Is this task either bringing me energy or is it taking my energy?
I love that.
What can my VA do? Just keeping you a little away from the fire is not a bad thing for your sanity, your mental health, your excitement to build the business.
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's probably the biggest tip for hiring anybody. Have you ever just been stressed out beyond belief about all the stuff you gotta do for your business? You gotta answer emails and do the sales calls and follow up the quotes and talk to the marketing guy and build a website and write that email and just feel exhausted and your business isn't growing. You're just stuck right at $250,000, $500,000, wherever you're stuck at. You've just stuck there. It's been 3 years and you don't know how to figure it out. I'm talking with Brandon Lazar today, the owner of NinjaVA, and he's got all the secrets for hiring the people that you need to get to the next level. And when I say that, I mean, get your time back, stop doing the $20 an hour work, start focusing on the $1,000 an hour work as a business owner and actually getting to grow your business. You want the secret to growing your business? Stay tuned. It's right here. All right, I am Ryan Knoll, your business coach, with Brandon Lazar, who is one of my personal heroes for just everything VA and virtual assistants. Brandon, you owned a small business for years, pressure washing, sold that, took all the knowledge that you gained from grabbing VAs and using them to scale your own business, and now you're applying it to everybody else's through NinjaVA. Is that right? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm kind of a 15-year veteran of the home service industry. So I had an exterior cleaning business, and in my area, we're not only seasonal, we're hyper seasonal, right? So my backstory is I would go from 2 technicians in February to 32 technicians in May every single year. That was like my standard normal, right?
Yeah.
Which that's a lot of a legwork. And looking back on it, I kind of question how I ever did it.
I don't even know how you do it. So you're hiring 32 people and training them in like a month.
Yeah. And of those 32 that we would inevitably get to, we'd be lucky if we had even 6 returning faces from the season gone by. So,
oh, wow.
Really what that called on is we need to become like experts at building out and operating a hiring funnel is really what it came down to, right? Mm-hmm. So what we've done with NinjaVA is we basically attributed our knowledge and experience from that home service business into the world of VAs, essentially.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So, and I just love the NinjaVA situation and everything that I've heard from the people that I coach that are engaging with NinjaVA and using it. It's nothing but awesomeness. So what I think I'd like to do, if you're okay with it, is just open it up, kind of talk about sort of the process of NinjaVA, how you find people, how you hold VAs accountable, and just see if we can kind of answer those frequently asked questions that people have when they're trying to get their own life back. You know, as a business owner, I think we just get stuck in this fog of too many things to do and I got to do everything, and letting go of that, you know, first of all, letting go of that responsibility, that need to constantly be doing all the things. How do we emotionally do that? And then how do we get people that we can trust to do that, to do that work for us. So I don't know if you have any insight, you know, being a Conquer coach as well, like me, and to just that emotional side of the people that are like, I don't know, I don't want a VA. Like, how can I give them this, you know, running my payroll? I can't trust them to do that, or I can't trust them to have access to my customers' credit cards or whatever. Is there a magic bullet there, or something that you've seen that really works for just being able to let go and open up emotionally to do this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And like, I like to fill in my story in terms of how I got into the world of VAs to start, right? Because I feel like that story is relevant. And ultimately, our situation was such that we had 4 full-time CSRs in our office
Mhm.
reporting in, right?
And
Like
just for
weekly,
everybody, what's a CSR?
yeah, customer service representative. So they're basically the face of your business. They answer the calls. They work your CRM, inbound, outbound emails, etc. Right. And in my cleaning business, it was fairly large. Obviously, we had 3 different locations, 32 technicians out in the field, and we would do over 2,500 jobs a year. So there's a lot of admin work that goes with that, as you can imagine. And yeah, it was the year before last. It was just a really struggling time, right? We would hire these people, usually in January, hopefully get them ramped up and situated in their job for the busy spring cleaning rush. And ultimately that year, we were just feeling like it was such a clunky operation. And ultimately, like the hiring of people locally has always been a little bit tricky, but I feel like it's only getting worse right now.
I'm feeling that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not going away, I don't think, right?
No.
And I that year I was just really feeling like my benchmark for success was just, are they showing up at all? Let alone what they do here.
Yeah. Can
And
you
across
fog
the
a mirror? Then come on board. We need help.
Oh man. And like I recall I was paying 22 to $25 an hour plus
Mhm.
burdens on top, so it's expensive. And
Yeah.
we're talking overhead, like indirect labor where they're not generating a dollar directly for us, right?
Mhm.
They're necessary, but they're not it's not like a technician who's going out and, creating a bunch of sellable work,
Right.
right? So kind of got into that season and ultimately it was just clunky. We had one person that was really struggling to make it in on time. We had another person who was like hyper emotional. I swear I'm a nice guy, but like she would leave like at least one time per day in tears. And
Oh my God. Yeah, you are the nicest person I've ever met. And I've had people like that working for me where like they are just on an emotional trigger. And if you tell them something like, hey, you could have done this a little better, they just freak out, you know? Yeah.
yeah. And then I had another lady and she just couldn't get the attention to detail thing under wraps, right?
Yeah.
So the straw that broke the camel's back was ultimately I was kind of overhearing a call that was unfolding in our open concept office. And you could tell something was wrong on the other end. So immediately you focus over as the owner.
Hmm.
And basically, it was somebody calling in. They were super confused because all the windows on their home just got cleaned and they're not a client of ours. Right. So ultimately, what happened is we flubbed on the address input. The quote becomes a work order, and the technicians thought they were doing a great job, but they were given the wrong information.
Oh my God, I've totally done this before. We just completely cleaned somebody's apartment from top to bottom, and it was not a customer of ours. And we got into their apartment too, just because they left their door open, and it was just terrible. So
Yeah.
I have been there. Oh man, okay. So how do you even solve that when you have?
So what was extra embarrassing is that was actually the second time that week that this had taken place, right? So
Whoa.
again, as an owner, this business is my baby, right?
Hmm.
So that was it. Like I was done. I was over the whole in-person CSR thing.
Okay, and then I guess the root of the problem was whoever took that customer service rep, that CSR that took that call, just wrote down the wrong number because, like you said earlier, they didn't have that attention to detail that's so necessary.
So important.
Mhm.
Everything is hedged on their ability to do that thing in that moment that ultimately throughout the customer lifecycle, we're going to be constantly referring back to that
Yeah,
customer's profile.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So at that point it sucked, man. But I had to go through and I fired 4 people in the course of 2 weeks. And it sucked because like that's not something I take lightly. And I blame myself first, right? Like ultimately I hired those people or I didn't manage them properly or whatever. But ultimately when you get to that place as a leader, you have to accept responsibility, right?
Mhm,
And it
mhm.
sucks.
Okay, so this is like the origin story of how you're like, I'm going to just become the guru of virtual assistants. I'm going to find people that are accountable and actually want this work and care about it. So you ended up looking for VAs.
Exactly. Yeah. At that point, we started our journey of basically shifting over for our own company into the world of VAs. And ultimately, we got to that place of like, we had 4 full-time VAs now. We had one that was the manager of the VAs, and they were helping for all different parts of our business, including even the hiring and the hiring funnel of our technicians. So it ended up being a huge success. I always say the blood is still red, right? Like if you're expecting all of your life's problems to evaporate because you're hiring a VA,
Yeah.
you probably got to look in the mirror first, and you got to work on your business and,
Mm.
figure things out first. But ultimately speaking, it was refreshing because I feel like a lot of the things that we've lost in North America in terms of work ethic, this whole like quiet quitting thing, ghosting,
Yeah.
like all those things are not really much of a theme when it comes to the Philippines, which was awesome.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so you're mainly focused on the Philippines, and that's where you go.
Yes. Yep. The Philippines is a great country. I've actually had the honor of backpacking through the Philippines, which is cool to bring it full circle.
Oh,
But
cool.
ultimately, as a country, they're very westernized. A large degree of Christianity actually at the core,
Hmm.
and ultimately, the BPO industry, business process outsourcing industry, is like a huge thing there, right?
Yeah.
So this is standardized. There's people that this is their entire career, so they're very specialized in this sort of work.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences just with the Americanization of the Philippines and how similar the culture is to ours. And I think they get a lot of culture from us, just exported through TV and media. Yeah, I had a VA that I work with tell me that she was a passenger princess. Like she, her husband drives her around, is what that means. That's an American term, and I had no
Totally.
idea. And she
Yeah.
was telling me about these these lingos that Americans use that I wasn't even aware of. So, there's like really no barrier there between the cultures, or very, very little.
It's pretty
Um,
seamless. And again, like you have to do your diligence. It's not like everyone operates that way or can carry on a seamless conversation, but it definitely exists over there for sure.
yeah. Well, now I know that this selection process and the hunting for VA process is difficult, and I want to kind of see if we can give some people some tools. And I think what I want to, the kind of journey I want to take is, like how does it actually work for Ninja VA and for you, kind of finding these people, and then obviously the end goal is we want to hire a VA because you want to do less work. Same is true for hiring the VA. If you have somebody who's an expert at this and had their origin story moment where they learned how to do this stuff, always go that route. But I want to kind of see if we can, if you're okay with it, like pull the curtain back and just say, like, hey, we use this website to locate most of our VAs. Here's some of the key things that we look for, because I know this is a lot of work. Is that something that we can kind of talk about and just dive down?
Certainly. Yeah. And it is a lot of work. And I'm like a huge systems junkie. Again, as you can imagine, going from 2 technicians to 32, you do
Yeah.
that with systems, right? And the same way you produce that many jobs on temporary help or, non-permanent labor and all the rest of it, right? So I'm always of the mindset as an entrepreneur that like, I don't want to go through the legwork of systematizing something that I'm only going to use like once or twice, right? So look, the frequency.
Yeah. I've had this experience with people that I coach. I've got a whole system for how I hire. Um, but I'm hiring like 3 or 4 people every month, year round, and a lot of the people that I'm coaching, they only have a need for like 3 people this year. So it's like I don't spend 16 hours building out these systems that I built, or at this point, I think I've spent hundreds of hours on my hiring systems. It's not worth it for you. Like you kind of have to operate where you're located. If you need to hire one person, don't build out these systems. Like just do what you got to do. Get it done, or hire somebody who's got the systems and can get you people faster and better.
Immediately give you the benefits of those systems, right? Where
Yeah,
like you can fumble around for a long time and you don't know what you don't know until like some of this, like it's like a 6 or 9 month feedback window, right?
yeah,
Because like you don't really know if you're successful until they're onboarded, they're proficient, they're doing their job and they're taking stuff off your plate,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
but yeah, no, basically there's a ton of different places you can find VAs online. Like even something as simple as like Upwork, right? You can post a job on there. There's VAs on there.
Yeah,
I don't recommend it just because Upwork culture is kind of that gig economy
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're not designed for like long tailed relationships is what I found,
Yeah, and
right?
when we're hiring good customer service reps or accounts receivable people or whatever, we want somebody who's going to be around for a while. And Upwork is very much, hey, I got this one job. Can you take care of this one little thing for me? Kind of closer to Fiverr, I think.
Agreed. Yeah. And like not to rule either of those solutions out. Like sometimes that's truly what we need. And I think those are amazing tools to situate themselves in our tool chest as entrepreneurs. But you're exactly right. Like in this environment, you're probably looking for somebody who's going to be like the backbone of your business
Yeah,
and somebody who your client base learns to to meet and expect on the other end of the line. So yeah, you want this to be longstanding for sure.
Yeah.
Beyond that, though, there's a number of different places you can find them, right? But ultimately, wherever you find them, be it, there's even like Filipino work groups on Facebook, right? Like there's a lot of different places you can find potential VAs.
Yeah.
The real art comes down to how are you going to filter them down, right? We need to find
Mm.
the high caliber inside of the pool.
Okay. Well, what are some of those other websites? Because I know there's like va.ph or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we've kind of gone all over, and ultimately we've created a funnel now where it kind of generates on its own the interest. Because once you can get to that point where also like the referrals of our current VAs
Right,
and the
right. Once you get the
placements is something
flywheel
that we
going. Yeah.
yeah, and we really leverage that because I'm of the firm belief like birds of a feather flock together.
Hmm.
Same with if you get a tech referral from one of your all-star technicians,
Yeah.
chances are high that that next person's going to be good quality as well.
So I guess if you're an entrepreneur trying to roll your own, which obviously we don't suggest, always hire experts to do things that you're not an expert in, right? That's the whole point of owning a business. If you're trying to roll your own and you don't have a VA right now, maybe you could lean on friends or other business owners who use VAs and have ones that they like, asking
Yep.
for referrals. We can go on Upwork. We can go into the Facebook groups for Filipino VAs. I think there's some subreddits that can be good for finding virtual assistants. But essentially, for you, you've kind of gathered all of these and you're just completely agnostic. It doesn't matter where they come from. The secret sauce is how we filter them.
Yeah, we've kind of created like our own environment now where they're coming directly in through our site. And
Hmm.
then at that point, regardless of who you are or where you're located, like we have to start to filter them down.
Yeah.
On average for NinjaVA, we have 200 initial applicants for one specific candidate. So
Wow.
that's a really tough hiring funnel to implement because
Yeah.
that's a lot of legwork, right?
So
Um,
what are like some of the like high level knockouts? Like if this
yeah.
person doesn't do a homework assignment, if they, like what's something that's just like, hey, these are kind of the top three. Like if you see this on an application, just forget about it.
So what I always recommend is have a good idea as to what you're looking for them to do in the end, right? If it's going to be customer facing, working the phone, stuff like that, let's really test them and grill them on the English first and foremost, right? Because that should be kind of the first knockout, in my opinion.
Mm,
So ability to speak with little to no accent and also write with little to no errors or spelling or grammar
yeah.
issues, right? I'd say that's a big one. Beyond that, I really think that like if they're just intelligent in general, they're going to be more capable,
Mhm.
right? So whether it's an IQ test or like what we do is we do attention to detail, we do a communication test and an English test.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, though, having them go through some assessments, I think really gives you that clarity that who you're speaking with on the other end is like truly of top notch caliber.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense to me. Yeah, I mean and I find that just with so I run a home cleaning business with the maids that I hire, it's about 100 to 1, 200 to 1's even more intense. So getting that filtering is super super important. And so to your point, the biggest thing that we're doing is we know we have a clear definition of what we want them to do. You're answering emails, you're on the phone. And let's just
Yeah.
get them on the phone, have them record some audio for us and just see like how does it sound? If I was a customer hearing this, how would I react? What's their ability to answer difficult questions? I think one of my favorite things when I hire customer service people is I have a really hard email that I got from a client. It's a very silly email. They're not really
Mhm.
complaining about anything. They're not really asking for anything. They're just like mad for some reason. And I just post that email and I say, hey, reply to this email and just see how they do naturally. And we kind of have a system, so in our customer service stuff, we use the herd method, which is hear, empathize, apologize, resolve, diagnose. There's like a million different versions of this. That's just kind of the format we want them to use when they answer an email that got somebody's mad, and just look for who's answering in that format already. And I don't have to teach them. And it's
Yeah.
very hard, but we will eventually find somebody who is. Um, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's probably the biggest tip for hiring anybody, really. put them to the test. Make sure they can actually do this thing you want them to do.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like to full completion, right? Because
Right.
obviously they don't have training, they don't have context, they don't know your company's specific values,
Sure. Yeah.
right? But at the same time, you know, we're expecting a little bit of a default to come through on that sort of an assessment.
Right. Can we get 80% of the way there and we can train the other 20, but it's going to be, that it's the 80-20 rule, right? If you got 80% of this, we can get you that 20%. If you only got 20% of it, that 80% is going to be way harder. And yeah, some people just never get it. I love that. Okay. So we got a VA. We like working with them. What's something that we can do to be effective with our VAs? And I'm sure you have to deal with this all the time. Like, how do we hold people accountable who are remote that we don't have any access to aside from emails and Zoom calls?
So first and foremost, I'd actually recommend, on a structural level, try and find some way where you can kind of do the trust but verify methodology, right? So what we have in NinjaVA is it's actually very similar to Upwork. So if your VA is clocked in and on the clock, you're seeing live screen grabs of what they're working on, right? You're seeing how much mouse movement is and how much keyboard use. That's really important because like in the world of VAs, like as a caution, there's such thing as what's called padding, right? Where a VA with low moral fiber is going to have 2 or 3 jobs that they work
Sure.
simultaneous. And when I say
Yep.
simultaneous, I mean literally the same working hours.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
want to have those little bit of safeguards in place.
Yeah, I'm literally going through this right now. I hired somebody to help with some SEO projects that I'm working on, and it became very clear after maybe about a month or two that like, oh, you've got another job. There's no way you're taking, just taking way too long to respond to emails and not getting tasks quite done, but sort of doing the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I should probably be, recording that screen and just making sure you're, doing everything you need to do. Yeah, that's a popular thing even in America. What's it called? Being overemployed.
Yeah.
Um, there's a whole subreddit for it where they talk about like tips and tricks on how to be overemployed. We got to look out
I've
for that as
seen the
business.
TikTok where like the fan is moving the mouse, right? And that's the activity. Yeah, yeah, totally. So, I mean, at the end of the day, resources are scarce. We're a small business, so we want to know that our hard-earned dollars are going to somewhere that brings us focus and value,
Yeah,
right? Because if we're not getting those things, it's not going to work, right?
sure.
Um, but beyond that, I think then it comes down to expectation management, right? We got to be very clear on what we're looking to get off of our plate.
Mhm.
And I always like to say, too, like, again, the blood is red with VAs. So you still got to train them. You still got to teach them. You still got to follow up with them as you
Right.
would any other person in your operation,
Yeah.
right?
They're human beings, and it's going to be the same deal. Like, set those expectations. Here's your job. Here's what you're responsible for. Here's how we're going to test these things. Like, here's the key goals for success. I feel like when you give people tasks a lot, the thing I see people messing up with is not, here's the task, but not what's the win condition for this task. Like, how am I going to measure that you
Uh-huh.
were successful in completing this, right?
Yeah.
And it gets missed a lot, but it's even more important with virtual assistants, but really for anybody.
Yeah, and like it might be a little bit awkward if that's not how you ordinarily operate in terms of your management style. But like, what a breath of fresh air for that person! What a gift, right?
Yeah.
You're literally saying, "Help me define what success looks like,"
Mhm.
so that you're very clear going into this, and then ongoing, we both know what kind of the ruler of success is at that
Yeah.
point.
So in this situation, you're saying it's not all on the business owner to say, here's how we can tell if this is successful. You can work with your VA to kind of outline this stuff together.
Yeah, it's a conversation.
Love that.
I think when it comes to taking things off of your plate and putting it on theirs, uh, a couple things we want to use to like forecast what should kind of be first to move,
Yeah.
right? So first and foremost, anything that's repetitive or just generally sucks a lot of your time without a high level of skill or discretion, right?
Hmm.
That is like overwhelmingly a VA task, right?
Right.
If those values are being satisfied. Another thing to realize too is like, is this task that's on my to-do list on a regular basis either bringing me energy or is it taking my energy,
Mm.
right?
I love
So
that.
if it's taking my energy, you got to be really careful as an entrepreneur. You have to guard your psyche, right? And if you have something that whatever it is, it's just tedious, monotonous, whatever, and you come out of that feeling just gassed,
Yeah.
that's probably a good thing to consider getting somebody else to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really like the way you frame that because I think that's a big part that we miss. So we kind of outline, you got your $10 an hour work, $20 an hour work, and we really want you as a business owner to be doing the $1,000 an hour work, at least $500 an hour. So, $1,000 an hour is strategy, planning, closing big deals, with, strategic partners, hiring technicians, you know, doing the things that are really going to move the needle in a big way and stuff like getting your dry cleaning or, responding to customer service emails or even just answering the phone. Um, it's kind of sucking away your life force. But I like the framing of is it energizing you or is it draining you? Because there are certain things where, writing email copy. So there's a conqueror that I'm working with right now, one of the people I'm coaching, who um, just really enjoys writing email and he's really really good at it. So for him that could easily be maybe a $50 an hour task, writing those marketing emails, but he enjoys doing it energizes him,
What?
so he doesn't have to outsource that. That's okay because he likes doing it. It's good for him.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel the same way with working on my website because my background in SEO and website maintenance and all this stuff, I just like going in there and fiddling with stuff.
Yeah.
So I could hire that out, but it energizes me. So I'm just going to keep working on it. Right.
It's also like the lawyer concept, right? Like, so when you go in to sign a contract to buy a new home or something like that, and you go into the lawyer's office, he's the one or she's the one that meets with you,
Mm-hmm.
but it very likely was not him or her
Oh,
that
yeah.
drafted that contract, right? So even if it's something you like doing, there's probably bits and pieces that are not as fulfilling. So even those little bits of nuance can still be delivered by somebody else, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's 100% true. I love that. So same thing with VAs. That's how we get there. Right. Awesome. All right. So what are some other frequently asked questions that you get about VAs being kind of in this space and working with all the clients that you work with? Like, what are the things that everybody just wants to know about VAs and doesn't
Yeah.
quite have the answer to?
Yeah. I think the biggest one is like, what can my VA do? Right.
Mhm.
Like, I think most entrepreneurs like the idea and the concept of a VA, but either they don't know where to start or they don't know exactly what parameters they can get to in terms
Mhm.
of what they can offload. Right. So I actually came up with a really cool ebook. It's 20 pages long. And I'm happy to give that out to your audience there as
Oh
well.
yeah, I would love that. Yeah, if you could have a link where we can fill out a form to download it, we'll include it.
It's just ninjava.com/go. You get into your own demo account at that point, but also there's downloadable resources that come with all of our users. So yeah, definitely check that out. But like, I would say that's the biggest thing, right? And I think ultimately speaking, there's a lot of things that would be great if they got done in our businesses, but we know how that actually unfolds, right? Like something goes sideways, somebody calls in sick, a customer cancels, and all of a sudden the whole week is shot, right? Whereas if we have somebody who's installed in our company, they have these extra things on their docket and they just get done because that's what they're focusing on. And those things are high value. Things like posting regularly on social media, follow-up calls to our past customers, retargeting, calling back quotes that haven't converted. Like all those things should be done, but sometimes they don't in small business, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially like calling back quotes. It's one of those things that's so small. A lot of the times to close a deal, you just got to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, just want to see how you felt about that quote we gave you," and you're saving the client a step. And they'll just say, "Oh, you know what? I got quotes from like three or four people. You're the only person that called me back. Done. Let's close the deal." But you got to do it. And it's so easy
Yes.
as a business owner to be like, I gave them the quote. They got my number. They'll call me if they want it. But it's,
Or to assume that they hate us, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I feel like often we get into our own heads as entrepreneurs, and it's just not that way. They just got busy, they
Mhm.
got tied into something
Yep.
else, and they made no decision. It's not they made a decision
Oh,
against
yeah.
you; they made no decision.
I don't know how many times I've written a whole email. Like all I had to do was hit send and I didn't send it because I got distracted. And then I came back a day later and it was just still sitting there on my inbox. Clients are doing the same thing with the quote. They got their email up, they're looking at your quote, and they're like, "Oh, that's good. I should give them a call." And the phone rings, they walk away, and they forget about it, right?
Yeah.
You know?
And I think ultimately, like, we're not serving a ton of dopamine necessarily, depending on what you do or what you offer.
Hmm.
It's kind of like, got to get this thing off my plate, right?
Right.
It's a scratch off the list type of
Yeah.
an event, right?
Yeah.
So,
So just making it easy with a VA calling that quote back. I mean, I don't know how many people like coach where, it's like, hey, I need more leads. Like, well, are you calling the people that you're giving quotes back and closing on those deals? Well, like, no, not really. I just want more leads. It's like, no, call those quotes back first. You won't need more leads. I promise
Let's
you.
start there.
But how are you going to find the time? There's so many little things that need to get done, and that task switching as a business owner from, I got to call this quote back, got to give this quote over here, I got to answer this phone call. It's impossible to do, and you're never going to get above like 300, maybe $400,000 a year if you're really lucky, until you
Yeah.
start leveraging other people who don't have to task switch. Like your only job is answer the phone for sales and then call those quotes back. It makes it way easier for them as a human being to actually get that stuff done, because they're not task switching between hiring and firing and payroll and everything else that a business owner has to do. They can focus in and then actually get good at it, because it's the only thing they're doing. They're practicing it every day, right? Awesome, I love it. Okay, so ninjava.com/go, and that's going to give us our list of things that we can do to
Yeah,
uh,
that's going to allow you to get a demo account because we built out actually some custom software for this whole process and the management of your VA. So you'll actually get into a demo account, and then under the Academy section, you can see a bunch of the free videos that we've created for onboarding new users, getting you and your business ready for a remote worker to join on staff.
awesome.
But also then there is that download right at the bottom, and it's 20-page ebook on what can my VA do for a home service business.
I think that's great. I know when I got my first executive assistant, first VA, it was like, hey, I really know I need help, but I don't know what I need help with. I just want my time back. Can you figure that out, Mrs. VA? So that's such a great resource, 20 pages of what VAs can help with. I think it's super, super valuable. So definitely worth the cost of free 99. Nothing,
Yeah,
no
no
dollars.
doubt.
Awesome. Cool. Anything else? I mean, you've been so generous with your time, Brandon, and I really appreciate you coming on and just nerding out. Like I said at the top, like you're my, VA like hero, guru that I go to when I have questions about this stuff, because you're just a genius when it comes to these things. And everybody I know that's working with you or with a Ninja VA is having a really, really great experience, which is also a rare thing. Like I find a lot of different vendors and people doing different tasks. And it's like, this person had a good experience, this person didn't. That's not the case with Ninja VA. It's been 100% good feedback from what I'm hearing. So highly recommend people giving you a call. Is there anything else you want to say or shout out, or just a little nugget of inspiration or tool you want to give on the way out the door here?
Yeah, so I think kind of to what you started to touch on there in Conquer, what we teach is the what is the value of your time org chart, right? So ultimately in a service business, you have $10 an hour tasks, you have $50 an hour tasks, 500 and 1,000, right? The reality is though, you only have 8 hours in a day and maybe 2,000 hours in a year to put towards stuff, right? And the tricky part is that earlier lowest value column has to be done and taken care of before we get the luxury of going on to the higher value stuff, right? Like a ringing phone has to be answered, right? An email or an inquiry has to be returned, right? So I think the reality is, what a time to be alive. This technology is available. It's something you can just pick it up. And whether you use NinjaVA or you figure it out on your own, I would just really heavily implore you, like, explore the options and ultimately leverage your time.
Yeah, I want to put a little emphasis on that, because it's a great button to kind of wrap up on. Is your time is your money, and it's how you make your money. So I was talking to somebody. I was just doing a kind of a free coaching session on here, consult the coach with Ryan, and he's been stuck at $250,000 for like 3 or 4 years. Can't get above the hump. We start talking about what he's doing and what he's working on.
Right.
And all the stuff that he's spending all of his time working on is answering emails and phone calls and dealing with customer services situations and call outs. And it's all work that a VA could do. So we can, like, the only really thing we need to do in this case is just put some extra help in there, free up the business owner to go do their networking and sales and marketing and focus on that stuff that's, not the $10 an hour work or the $20 an hour work. It's the, $500 an hour work. And as soon as that happens, anybody I've met who's stuck, like, oh, I can't get past 1 million, I can't get past 2 million. It comes down to the people in your business. Like, that org chart has to grow. Yeah, you're not getting enough sales. You need to get a full-time salesperson. You're not getting enough, leads and marketing, like we need to start looking at some marketing vendors or somebody else to take that stuff away from you because you only have so much time. Just like you said, you
Mhm.
got 2,000
Yes.
hours a year. And if you're spending it all answering the phone, you're not growing your business. So I
Yeah.
think that's very wise.
Yeah, and that degree of insulation, right? Just keeping you a little away from the fire is not a bad thing for your sanity, your mental health, your excitement to build the business. Like if we can protect those things while leveraging you to a higher dollar per hour yield for your business, like that's just all good stuff.
Yeah. 1,000%, brother. 1,000%. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, man.
Awesome. Thanks for the opportunity, Ryan.
Cool. So real quick, just want to say thanks again to Brandon Lazar for coming on, dropping some knowledge on us. I thought it was really insightful. 2,000 hours in your year. That's all you got. And every hour is the last time you're going to see that hour. You need your time back. Your time is your most valuable thing. We spend so much time talking about our actual budgets. We don't talk about our time budget. Get your time back. Get some VAs, get some customer service reps, hold them accountable, use the lessons in this video, subscribe, and leave a comment. Tell me what really worked for you in this video. What were some things we could have expanded on more? I want your feedback. I want it in the comments. I want to hear what's really working for you. What was your biggest insight takeaway from this talk? And if you're in a position where you want to grow your business, you're not sure how, you're kind of lost, don't have the direction on where you can go, or your business is just stuck. Like, hey, I know where I want to go. I just don't know how to get there, Ryan. Use the link in the description. Give me your name and email and what your question is, and we will set a time up. If it's a question that's good and valuable and or just interesting, we will bring you on the show, talk to you about it, answer your questions, level up your life, all for free. I just want to make sure that, you're somebody who needs the help, wants the help, and we can benefit multiple people by doing it. So, like, comment, subscribe, send me all the signals that you care and that you want this. Leave a comment and fill out that form. Give me your information, and we'll be talking.